Hello, my name is Father Danny Schwendeman, and I'm the Vocation Director for the Diocese of Lexington, Kentucky. I'm also the current pastor of St. Elizabeth Ann Seton here in Lexington, Kentucky as well. So I'm more than happy to talk about my vocation, and it was a long drawn-out process. I knew from the time I was about 16 years old that I wanted to be a priest. And originally I thought I wanted to be a monk, but it was 25 years before I was actually ordained a priest, and I was ordained when I was 41 years of age. A little background. My mother is one of 7 children, my dad is one of 7 children, I'm one of 7 children, and my mother is a cradle Catholic, my father was a cradle Catholic, and of course I was raised Catholic as well and went to Catholic schools all of my life. I went to St. Paul Roman Catholic Church. That was my home parish, and I went to St. Paul School, grade school, and then Lexington Catholic High School, and I graduated in 1978. So my mom and dad really gave me a very firm foundation for Catholicism, and it was part of our tradition that we didn't leave the dining room table at night without praying the rosary. So we prayed the rosary every night as a family. And even on certain liturgical seasons like Christmas Eve, we would gather in the living room before the tree, and my father would read to us the birth narrative of Jesus from the Gospel of Luke. So church just grew up as a very large part of my life. And it was, as you know, if I wasn't home with my family, then we were at church, and I was part of a boys' choir at St. Paul when Father Charles McDonald was there. So I had an opportunity to sing in a number of different parishes. But then after I graduated from Lexington Catholic, I went to the University of Kentucky and I got my bachelor's degree in English literature. And then for a while I worked in retail management. And then when I was 31 years of age, the Diocese of Lexington was newly formed. You may or may not know, but originally we were part of the Diocese of Covington. So by 1991, we were the Diocese of Lexington. And I applied for sponsorship from the diocese to begin my priestly formation. I went through the whole process and I got in, and I went to St. Meinrad School of Theology in Indiana, where I began my pre-theology courses. And that lasted about a year, and I was so miserable. I thought, how could I have misread God's sign, His message that this is what I was supposed to do with my life? And I was just so miserable. I thought, this cannot be what God is calling me to. So I stayed in seminary for about a year. I took a leave of absence, and then in 1993, I went back to the University of Kentucky and I got my master's degree in library and information science, with my depth of study being library management and children's literature. I ended up becoming the library director at Eastern State Hospital, the state mental health facility, where I was the library director for a couple of years. But the feeling of wanting to be a priest just would not leave me. It's something that just would not go away. And to this day, I can remember it was December 31st, 1996. Mom and Dad and I were on our way to the Vigil Mass for New Year's at St. Paul's Church. And on the way down, I told Mom and Dad, I said, I think I want to try to be a priest again. And so I talked to my vocation director, who was Father Mark Dreves at the time. And because I had been out of the seminary for a full 5 years, I had to go through the whole process all over again. And I did go through the whole process, and I got accepted. This time, because I was 37 years of age, I was sent to Sacred Heart School of Theology in Hales Corners, Wisconsin, which is primarily a second career vocation seminary. So I had an opportunity to be in seminary with men who had been World War II vets. They had been married, they were widowed, they had children, they had grandchildren. I was also in seminary with other men who had had amazing career journeys. Some of them had been police officers, some lawyers, some judges, a nurse, doctors. And it just gave a whole different feel for the class dynamic and class discussion, because these men had had real experiences, and I truly loved it. So when I went back to seminary in August of 1997, and people will have to take my word on this, But I was a nervous wreck because I told Mom and Dad, I'm 37 years of age. I've given up a good career. Suppose I go and it's not right and I have to start all over again. And my father said to me, Danny, if God's calling you to the priesthood, then choose the priesthood. Don't back into it like it's a consolation prize, and don't let fear cripple you. So I went to Sacred Heart School of Theology, which is in a place called Hales Corners, Wisconsin, which is a suburb of Milwaukee. And my very first day there, when I just pulled into the parking lot, it was a rainy afternoon in August of 1997. And I went into the chapel to offer up a prayer of thanksgiving for safe travels. And so when I went into the chapel, try to envision this. When I walked through the door in a straight line looking all the way back, there was the baptismal font, and then there's the altar. Behind the altar there is the tabernacle, and behind the tabernacle there was a cut glass picture of the Sacred Heart of Jesus. It was so beautifully decorated. And so I dipped my finger into the baptismal font to begin my prayer to make the sign of the cross. And the most incredible feeling of peace came over me. And I realized that I got it right when God wanted it to be right. And I loved every minute of my seminary training. And so I was a Sacred Heart from 1997 to 2001 when I was ordained a priest. And even during my seminary years between 1997 and 2001, while I loved the seminary life, and it was such a good fit for me, and I was very, very happy, I had my own personal tragedies. My father would die very suddenly and very unexpectedly right before Christmas of 1999. My mother would almost die from her second triple heart bypass surgery. I was also in a very, very serious car accident where I had permanently injured a passenger in my car. I was surrounded by so much love and prayer and support during those 4 years in seminary and in the midst of my own personal tragedies that it just convinced me that I was on the right path and I was doing what God wanted me to do. And so now I'm looking at almost 20 years of priesthood, and I can honestly say I have loved every minute of it, despite the abuse scandal, despite all the negativity or even the cynicism or the harsh remarks people make about Roman Catholics or the priesthood. I truly love what I do. And what makes it so meaningful for me is that throughout these past 20 years, I've been privileged to listen to people's journeys and their stories of what God has called them to. And so it has been very special that I've had opportunities to be with people who are getting married or baptizing their children, or who are going through very difficult times. And because of all the support I have been given, I'm able to give that to other people as well who are going through difficult times. So my journey to the priesthood was anything but a straight line. It was all over the place. And for the longest time, even though I felt called to the priesthood, one of the things that held me back is I thought I'm not perfect enough. I thought in order to be a priest, I would have to be absolutely perfect. And it seems to me that the more perfect I tried to be, the more imperfect I became. And finally, I realized that God does not call anyone to any vocation, whether it's holy matrimony or holy orders, or to be a doctor or a nurse, a lawyer, or a teacher, or whatever vocation. God doesn't call us because we're perfect. God calls us because we're human. And if we put ourselves into His hands, God will do the rest, and God will get us to where we need to be. So kind of in a nutshell, that's been my journey to the priesthood, and these past 20 years, I can honestly say, have been the happiest of my life. And I can truly tell you, anyone who's exploring or thinking about the priesthood, I hope as the vocation director, you would contact me so I can talk to you about your journey and where God might be leading you, so I can share more in depth about my journey with you, because God has a call for each and every one of us. And it is important that we pray daily that God will open our eyes and our hearts to see what He is calling us to do. And then we do it to the best of our ability, trusting that whatever God has called us to do or called us to be, that with His grace and His help, we will be able to do it to the best of our ability. So thank you for listening to my story. I hope you all are doing well. Stay safe, stay healthy, and may God bless each and every one of you.